Sorry, my video just flipped off for unknown reasons, so I'm going to start at part 13 of the Divine Iliad, Message of the Divine Iliad by Walter Russell, Volume 2. It's part 13 of the Healing Principle lecture, and it's titled Toxic Effects of Emotions. Consider our bodily condition from the standpoint of electrical balance or unbalance, based upon the above stated fact that our bodies are a multiplicity of light waves emanating as electric currents flowing through myriads of nerve wires from countless storage battery cells of our body. Everyone knows that a storage battery is divided into two opposite and equal cells, one of which is positive and the other negative. A wire extended from both poles would carry an even balanced current because each of the two half-cycle pulsations are equal. If two cells of a storage battery were of different sizes or voltage, the current would be uneven, therefore unbalanced. Balanced electric currents from balanced electric cells ensure a sound body and steady nerves, while the uneven currents from unbalanced body cells tear nerves into pieces and disintegrate the body in the measure of unbalance between the two pulsations and their centering fulcrum. Sudden and violent anger or long-continued hatred can start the seed of cancer or other disintegrating tissues. Fears, worries, and long-continued emotions which are devoid of love or inner joyousness will develop many such effects as stomach ulcers, neuritis, arthritis, and other such toxic conditions. Even sorrow or sympathy for the afflicted, or grief for the passing of loved ones, unbalances the body cells and makes one vulnerable to infections or destructive toxins. For such emotions have no relation to love, or the inner joyousness of love-inspired man, nor are they within the God mind which alone knows unchanging ecstasy. Grief is selfish. It is indulged in for self-gratification, not for love. Cosmic man knows the beauty and unreality of death. Sympathy for the afflicted makes a reality of the affliction by its recognition as an infliction, while sorrow for the loss of anything or for the unfortunate condition of anybody is forgetful of the beauty and abundance of all-giving God and nature. The mind of God knows but one unchanging emotion, ecstasy, the ecstasy of love, the ecstasy of the inspired who know God's thinking. That ecstasy which has its beginnings in an inner joyousness of one who is far on the road to the discovery of his immortal self. God does not know grief, sorrow, anger, mercy, pity, wrath, sympathy, pestilence, impatience, or intolerance. The very suggestion in these words pictures an impossible God, a God of imperfection. It pictures weak humans in early stages of unfolding. For God to have such qualities would mean the creation of a universe of chaos, instead of a balanced, orderly one of law, just as qualities of varied, unbalanced emotions in man result in the chaos of wars and countless ills in man's creating universe. God's unchanging state of ecstasy is in the one invisible, unchanging spiritual state of mind. God's light of love cannot change into opposite expressions, nor can it be divided into the physical pairs of opposite emotions, which being alone to the sensed electric universe of unfolding creations. To attribute such physical emotions of the senses as fear, anger, wrath, mercy, sympathy, grief, impatience, guilt, intolerance, or even justice to the mind of God would remove his divinity and immortality and place him on the level of sensed humans whose every emotion is divided into pairs of opposite expressions. He who would be illumined with the cosmic light of all-knowing must first be so much the master of his body that he can take all things alike and know love in all things, knowing all as good. Likewise, he must be so much the master of his thinking that he can stop not only his thinking, but all electric awareness of his body to find God's ecstasy and his immortality. Exemplifying this means we again quote from the Divine Iliad, quote, "He who findeth my ecstasy and me shall command his body to the extent of his illumination with my light and my knowing. My balance shall then be his. He may then make blind eyes see, or unhearing ears to hear my rhythms, and the afflicted to know my ecstasy and be healed of any ill, yea, even to rise his body from the dead, when being dead, he still knoweth that he liveth in me." Unquote. Again, we say the foundation of God's universe is love, and balance is the light of love. He who would heal himself from unbalance must first find the balance of love through knowing the ecstasy of love. He who would heal others may extend his knowing to others only to the extent of his knowing. He who thus heals has not himself healed, for he who is thus healed has healed himself through the extension of love, which has caused him to transform himself through his illumination, extended to him from another who knew himself as one with him who was afflicted. Jesus did not himself heal the leper. He made the leper heal himself through extending his balance to the unbalanced ones. He illumined him with the light of all-knowing love. That made the leper master of his electric body, and his desire instantly transformed the disintegrating matter of his body to integrating matter. Likewise, Jesus illumined Lazarus with the light of love by extending his balance and desire to Lazarus. Lazarus thus raised himself from the dead, for he was thus made to know desire in him for continuance of his purpose. Jesus was undoubtedly the only fully illumined man who has ever lived. All mankind will become fully illumined as he was, for that is the goal of mankind. It is the purpose for which the great drama of creation was written by the master playwright. As all mankind unfolds to greater cosmic conscious awareness of the light, each one transforms himself to the extent of his illumination. Part 14. Resurrection. The story of my own resurrection from the dead exemplifies the principles enumerated in the foregoing. This story is part of the as yet unpublished manuscript of the Divine Iliad. Each year, in early spring, since the age of 7, I had known the greatest of all experiences, the illumination of the light of cosmic consciousness. Every 7th year, this ecstatic experience was more intense and of longer duration. This continued throughout all my life, culminated in the greatest of all in 1921, which lasted over a period of 39 days and nights, of almost complete severance of electrical awareness, but complete cosmic awareness. During this period, I wrote the message of the Divine Iliad, as commanded of me, and for which purpose I was thus illumined. Just before my second major illumination, at the age of 14, I was stricken with black diphtheria, which is identical with black plague. Cultures from my throat so blackened a case knife that the 3 doctors attending me said I could not possibly live, for the functions of my throat were destroyed. Soon after these doctors pronounced me dead, the undertakers had arrived. I had no awareness of my body whatsoever, but while in that state a great ecstasy overwhelmed me with all-knowing light and love, and to the amazement of my weeping parents, I arose from my bed perfectly healed. An inspection of my throat showed a perfect normalcy of strong tissue, and my weakened body was again strong and vital. No words of mine can quite convey as much meaning as those set down in the Divine Iliad itself. In reference to this event which God caused to take place in order that I should fulfill his purpose by conveying his message to man for which I was being prepared. I quote from the Divine Iliad. It had been given me to know that regeneration of the body from that which man calls death is within the range of power of inner knowing of the soul has not yet left the body. That disease which man calls black diphtheria or black plague had so disintegrated my body that my soul made ready for its departure, and I was pronounced dead by man. God took me up unto the mountain top, where inspired man is God-man, and there gave unto me higher knowledge of the power of regeneration of my body through his all-knowing light. Through the red violet world and the red world, to the world of pure white light beyond the world of blue, and black again to the world of pure white simulated light beyond the yellow world. The spirit within me journeyed in an ecstasy for which there are no words of man to tell. In the ecstatic state of inner knowing, the great truth of creating and decreating things was made known to me. That majestic swing of the cosmic pendulum spilled out for me the glorious rhythm of things to be and then not to be. The mystery of soul was mine, the souls of all creating things. The memory of 10 times 10,000 lives mirrored themselves in light from their records on my soul to tell me that my body was still new, that my time of disappearance had not yet come. It was then given me to know that the power of revitalization of my body was mine, and I, who had been pronounced dead by man, lived strongly in the body. Unquote. This story, added to the principles which have been before enumerated, will accentuate the fact that the complete balance which alone can come to man through full awareness of the unity of God and man will make anyone who is thus illumined absolute master of the electric waves which comprise his body. Through such illumination, one can insulate himself from toxic poisoning of any nature by decentrating from body awareness to find the stillness of mind knowing, which centers him, and from that fulcrum of rest extend God's balance to every cell for his body, of his body for retransformation. Likewise, anyone so illumined can extend his knowing and his balance to anyone else and illumine that one to the extent of his own illumination. He to whom the light of love has been thus extended can heal himself through his own illumination. And that is the end of lecture number 3 from part 2 of The Message of the Divine Iliad, volume 2 by Walter Russell. Lecture 4, I will begin lecture 4 on the next video. It is entitled Scientific Answer to Sex Promiscuity. And this is a really good lecture. I've read this obviously before. So I will begin that on my next video. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy my content.